The Michael Berry Show.
An Afghan national has been arrested in the state of Texas for making a terrorist threat. A post by Lieutenant Chris Olivarez, who is a big shot with the Texas Department of Public Safety. The Texas DPS worked alongside DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and other federal agencies and local agencies to help arrest the Afghan national who made that terroristic threat. Lieutenant Olivarez, thank you for joining the show again. We appreciate that. What exactly happened here?
Hey, good morning, Michael, and also good morning to your listeners. This really shows just what, great police work does. Coming together, working with our local and federal law enforcement agencies, gathering intelligence, and being able to prevent a terroristic attack that was coordinated by this Afghan national, where he posted a video on social media where he was targeting the Fort Worth, Texas area and making a bomb. And I think it really shows, underscores, that we face more threats now than we have ever faced before. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, we dealt with an unprecedented surge at the border the past 4 years, and not knowing exactly who was coming across the border, especially, those from adversarial countries that do want to cause harm to our country, and being released into the country, now having to track some of these immigrants down. And this is a perfect example of what could have happened, what really could have happened if it wasn't for our DPS personnel working together with the FBI and DHS and being able to locate this Afghan national and arrest him for terroristic threat. And one thing I do want to add is that we're taking a proactive approach when it comes to these type of matters that affect public safety. Just most recently in September, we created and developed a Homeland Security Division within the Texas Department of Public Safety. And what that does is brings all of our intelligence services together under one unified command and provides a more robust intelligence apparatus where we have more services working together, providing real-time information to the field, to the agents, to the troopers, to be able to stop events like this and arrest criminals that do want to cause harm to our state.
What do we know about this guy, this Afghan national? How did he get here? How long had he been here? Was he part of a terror cell? Did he arrive a bad guy based on the activities already, or was he under the throes of one of these imams that operate on American soil?
That's one thing that we don't know, and it kind of goes back to what I've always talked about years ago, right? When you allow people to come into the country illegally, you don't vet them, meaning you don't do any background checks, any type of fingerprints, any type of being able to gather information from some of these other countries, because they don't share information with us as far as any type of terroristic threats or terroristic database. We have our own terroristic database, but again, some of these countries don't share information on some of these individuals that are coming across. This particular immigrant, this Afghan national, came across the border and was given status in 2022 by the previous administration as part of their Welcome Allies operation. And because of that, again, we don't know exactly what radicalized this particular individual, what caused him to want to cause harm to our country and, make this terroristic threat. But again, we take it very serious, and we have a zero tolerance for that. Our Governor Abbott, has made it very clear as well that we're going to prioritize public safety, and we're going to locate and track people down that are making these type of threats and that do want to cause harm to our great state.
I wanted to ask you about another post you put up. It's actually your pinned post, but every time I go look you up, it's from a year ago. I'd like to know if this is still happening and have you talk a bit about it. You said, watch, an unaccompanied 2-year-old child from El Salvador explains she arrived in the U.S. by herself and that her parents are in the U.S. The child had a piece of paper with a phone number and a name. This morning, Texas DPS encountered a group of 211 illegal aliens in Maverick County. Among the group were 60 unaccompanied minors, ages 2 to 17, and 6 special interest immigrants from Mali and Angola. Lieutenant Olivarez, Texas Department of Public Safety. I've seen video. I've talked to other law enforcement. I've talked to Bill Malusian of Fox, who has covered this beat for quite some time. And the disturbing aspect of illegal immigration, perhaps the most disturbing, is children who appear to be trafficked to this country at the earliest, the youngest of ages. Your thoughts? Is that still going on, and how bad is that?
I keep that post pinned as a reminder of what we faced, during those last 4 years. And just as you mentioned, just the travesty and devastation when we talk about children, they are the most vulnerable population. However you feel about immigration, the fact of the matter is that, we were experiencing as a state police agency unaccompanied children coming across that border by themselves and not knowing exactly where they were going to end up. And to date, we do not know exactly where they ended up. And we've heard stories and we've seen reports on some of these children being found, in sex trafficking camps and used for, hard labor. That is the reality of the situation when you allow millions and millions of people to come across the border, to include unaccompanied children. We have not seen that now with the new administration. And I will say that is one thing that I am very, pleased to know that we have an administration that has really been cracking down. And really now we have immigration at an all-time low. And with that, you're going to stop the flow of unaccompanied children. Now the problem is, where do we find these children? What can we do to find these children that were released, that came across the border the last 4 years, that have been released to the country? Now we got to find them. We got to find them, reunite them with their families, and again, have some type of permanent solutions in place for the next 4 years, 8 years. That's one thing we got to think about too, is that, immigration has always been an ongoing cycle, and we want to make sure that we put some type of policies in place at the federal level. That's where our lawmakers to come into play, so we can stop this from happening again. But again, it's a stark reminder of the devastation and tragedies that we were dealing with the last 4 years when we just had this unprecedented surge at the border.
There is the purely American interest, which we should always serve first, of protecting our people and including our own children. But then there is, at the next level, the universality of decency, particularly as it relates to children, and the idea that this is part of a trafficking ring, not just of drugs, but of human beings to be used as sex objects. And we've seen this in case after case. It's as old as mankind. People can be evil with regard to their depravity. And it bothers me on a level. It's almost unspeakable, having children myself and a house full of nieces and nephews over the weekend who were about this age. It's unfathomable. It is so disturbing. Lieutenant Chris Olivarez with the Texas Department of Public Safety. As always, sir, thank you for your service, and thanks for making time to talk to us about this. Keep up the great work.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Ramon, did you know that Catholic Mass is just Catholic force divided by Catholic acceleration?
Sir, please do not call him a fat pig. See, I'm trying to be nice. Don't call him a fat pig.